I'd like an answer to the question, Judge.
You can't handle the truth!
I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again.
Welcome to After Hours AM, The Criminal Code, with your hosts, Joel Sturgis, Eric Olsen, and Dr. Clarissa Cole.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome to this edition of After Hours AM, The Criminal Code. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. Right along with me,
Eric Olsen and
Dr. Clarissa Cole.
And we are actually have a really good show on tap, as always, but this one deals with the subject matter of Adam Walsh, which of course is the son that was abducted of John Walsh. And so we're going to be talking about that, and we're actually be having one of the top investigators on for that, and that's Joe Matthews on later on, top of next hour. You're going to want to stick around for that and hear that story, how justice is found, the grisly details, unfortunately, and there's plenty of those. And so it's going to be very interesting to hear what Joe has to say about the case, inside and out. And it was kind of funny reading what was going on. He was brought in as a polygraph examiner. Joe was.
Yeah, right at the beginning, too. So, like, talk about somebody, and he was there at the very end. So talk about somebody that knows literally everything.
Exactly. So we're going to be talking with him, of course, at the top of next hour. You're not going to want to miss that. But in the meantime, we are actually brought to you by Fate Magazine. Fate Magazine has been around since 1947, believe it or not. It has been the periodical for everybody that's interested in the strange, unusual, all that kind of good stuff. Not just necessarily just paranormal, but to kind of dive in all facets of high strangeness. And, of course, you can find everything out about Fate Mag at fatemag.com. And we're moving into the true crime headlines. And as always, the true crime headlines are brought to you by thecriminalcode.com. That's Clarissa's very own website. You can go on over there, get the doctor's notes, read all about true crime. In fact, she's got write-ups for most of the shows that are going up. So really get an in-depth behind the scenes of the crime, the whodunit, and also, like I said, the doctor's notes, which is ultra valuable because you get the actual workup by a practicing forensic psychologist. So go on over there to thecriminalcode.com. That being said, what do we got rocking tonight, guys?
Thanks, Joel. Well, I did want to cover the shooter in Maryland really quick, just because that's been kind of all over the place today. There was I know it's kind of serious, but apparently there was a man that shot at least 3 people are dead and 3 others were injured when he went from Maryland over to Delaware, just shooting people, apparently. Just
moseying along, right?
Moseying along, mowing people down.
Mow people down. Wow.
Yeah, his name is I apologize in advance for this.
Okay.
Radi Labib Prince, age 37.
And
wasn't it a workplace shooting?
Yeah, it seems like it is. He killed 3 people and wounded 2 others at his job in Maryland this morning. And it says he shot a 6th person about 2 hours later at a Wilmington, Delaware car dealership.
Just showed up and decided to shoot somebody? Wow.
I have no idea. So basically, because I remember earlier today, police were, issuing alerts out there because they thought that he was going on a spree, and just yes, it started as workplace.
Yeah.
But then with the car dealer, who knows?
They thought, he's out there and he's just shooting people at random.
Yes, exactly.
That is horrible.
He drove from Wilmington, from the Maryland shooting, and the hunt went for about 55 miles.
It's a long stretch.
Yeah, exactly. They did actually, just before this show, just before I started talking to you, Jill, before the show, they had caught him and the news was breaking about 4 minutes before. So they did catch him.
Did they take him alive? Custody. Oh, they took him alive. He didn't take the easy way out.
I don't think so. I think they did catch him alive. I'm looking at the article right now just to be sure. I'm pretty sure they took him alive.
Because most of them, of course, we've heard over the years, they kill themselves after they do this. I mean, that just seems to be what they do at most points.
Right.
And for him to go alive is a bit of an anomaly compared to what we're used to.
It is. Although, do you remember the DC shooters? That man and that young kid.
Oh yes. Yep.
They took them alive
too. They did,
so.
didn't they? That's right. They did take them alive. Boy, that is another story we're gonna have to cover sometime. The DC sniper.
Yes, I agree. Because that's a weird story.
That is a
weird
it not?
One.
That's a crazy story right there. And I don't think we've ever touched on it yet on this show. So we should one night touch on that because, wow, that story just keeps going and gets weird.
It really does, just because of the fact that I think everybody thought that with, the young kid and the guy that the kid was his son. And then it turns out he wasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, it just, what?
Yeah. Just a really weird set of circumstances. And if you don't know what we're talking about, there's all sorts of information on DC Sniper out there. Just give it a Google and read it if you're unfamiliar. It is a really strange tale. And it went on a long time. It wasn't just, a one-hit wonder, so to speak. It went on for a long time.
It really did, didn't it? I mean, there was terror all up and down the eastern seaboard, too, because they traveled, right?
Yeah, they're running around in a car. And they were just shooting people. And it took them a long time to capture the guy. In fact, there's APBs and everything else for the people.
I didn't want to, if I lived on the eastern seaboard, I wouldn't have wanted to leave the house because it was totally random.
Yeah, it was chaos. It was really chaos. I remember all the news reports all over that. And they didn't know who it was or what was going on. And yeah, again, that was a crazy case. And look it up if you've never heard anything about that case. And I think that one night we should give that a proper workup because it is worthy of After Hours AM, the criminal code.
Oh, I totally agree. And, just doing the workups, the psych workups on them will be very interesting.
Yeah. I would imagine you're going to dig up some stuff that is really strange.
Well, as always, yes.
As always.
Why are these names like this? I tell you what. I do have one other serious story that I wanted to get to because it's so bizarre, and we were just talking about a case like it.
Sure.
So I just wanted to get to it. It's in Salt Lake City, where a judge ruled that an 18-year, I guess, are they releasing his name? Yeah. An 18-year-old Utah man was accused of encouraging a teen friend to hang herself and filming it.
Wow, so this guy encouraged her to kill herself, and so he sat there and filmed it. And said,
yes.
And coerced her, going, come on, you can do it. You're going to be famous. You're going to be famous.
And this is one of those things that it feels, I don't know if it is. I need an expert on the law. I don't know if it's unprecedented. It kind of feels that way.
Yeah, I'm not sure if anyone's filmed somebody. It just seems like he wanted to get this on film, is what it seems like. Well, I'll let you continue because you have the story right in front of you as well.
Well, yeah, it's just so bizarre. Okay, so anyway, sorry. A judge, Judge James Brady, in a ruling yesterday, called the case unusual, but he said that he was going to stand trial for murder. So he is being indicted for murder.
Well, he should stand trial for murder.
Yeah, his name is, I'm going to, again, the name. Tyrell is the first name, and the last name is Presbysian, I think.
That's where I'd get with it, too. It's a weird one.
It's a very tough name, and he was involved with a 16-year-old named Chandra Brown, and he was it says he was, quote, deeply involved in Chandra Brown's suicide planning.
Oh, that's sad. That is truly sad.
It looks like Tyrell bought the rope that she used. He tied it in a knot for her.
How often, though, does this happen, Clarissa, you've heard of, where people, at least cheerlead them on to death?
I won't say that it's the first time that I've heard this, because I've heard this outside of this case and the Michelle Carter case, but it's typically in just putting it plainly, more of in a domestic violence type situation.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like where somebody's just kind of cutting the other person down for years, and then the other person might threaten to commit suicide, and they kind of taunt them, I guess.
Okay.
That's really the closest.
Go ahead. You're too chicken.
Exactly.
You're too weak.
Yes.
Just don't leave a mess. I don't
You're
care.
too lame. You can't even do that. You couldn't even kill yourself. You lame wad.
Exactly. You can't even do that, right? So
Wow.
I've seen and heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. That I've heard that before, where people have said that. Come on, if you do it already. I'm sick of hearing about it. That kind
exactly.
of stuff.
And so it's usually when it's like a married couple or at least a dating couple that lives together.
Yeah.
This whole thing of like, I found somebody on the internet. What's happening?
Yeah. It's crazy. In this case, of course, Tyrell. I'm gonna try to do it. Prisbison, whatever, should be tried. He's to be tried, of course, like you said, for being deeply involved in the 16-year-old's death. Suicide planning, and then of course she killed herself.
How old is this guy?
18.
He's 18.
And he even bought the rope. See, now that should be pretty damning right there. He bought the weapon, so to speak, that was being used.
I mean, he tied a rope to the tree. They fashioned a makeshift platform of rocks and wood beneath the tree. I guess Brown stood on the platform with the rope around her neck while he recorded a cell phone video of her inhaling compressed air from a canister, giggling, and stepping off the platform.
Well, okay, now maybe I'm dumb here for a minute, but what does the compressed air do for anyone? Anything?
That's a great question. I was going to ask you.
Eric, have you ever heard of that?
Well, was it just air or was it a whippet? Was it nitrous oxide?
Oh, maybe. It said compressed air from a canister, so yeah, I guess it would have to be.
Yeah, maybe it was a whippet.
A whippet, maybe.
She giggled, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that does sound like...
No, that wasn't really a giggly situation.
No, it really was not the time. That was not the time of her life right there. Going, this is going to be great.
Giggles.
Yeah. It'd be so much fun. So, now, I'd like to see how his lawyers argue this out.
Well, you know what's interesting, though? So let's say this is what gets me, though. Like, let's say you're on the jury, right? Yeah. And obviously, I think most people are like, he's guilty. But if you think about it, like, he did buy the rope. I get that.
He made the platform.
He made the platform, but he didn't force her to do it. You know what I mean?
I get it. But, older guy, young girl, maybe some drugs are involved, coercion going on. I could see where there's a big, strong case, of course, for his murder trial. But the other side, his lawyer's defense is, well, she didn't have to go through with it.
I mean, I guess that's where I sort of don't know where to go with that, because when I think of murder, I guess I think of somebody causing somebody else's death, not cheering them on.
His lawyers say that the girl made her own choice, pointing to 2 suicide notes in her own handwriting.
Interesting.
Was this murder 1? First degree murder?
It doesn't say. It just says a murder charge. Like, I can see depraved indifference, but...
Yeah. Or even manslaughter. I could see manslaughter.
I definitely don't see first degree. He
No.
didn't do it. He did not plan it. He did not force it upon
but he
her.
helped her, though.
He certainly did. He should be charged.
Yeah, because
whatever the maximum is. Is it second degree? Is it manslaughter? I mean, that was felonious behavior. There is no question
no doubt. And if you look earlier in the
line was crossed. I mean, that's another step beyond Michelle Clark, right? Don't you think?
I would agree.
Michelle Carter, yeah. I mean, she
Carter.
wasn't there. She didn't. I mean, watch it happen. Like, that does take a certain amount of. Oh gosh, I mean, you have no empathy. Clearly,
that would be a psychopath, right?
I would think that it takes a fair amount. I was going to say, I think it would take a fair amount of psychopathy to do that. But it just, the murder thing is just where I'm like, is it not? I mean, but you were saying, Eric, that it couldn't be first degree murder, but they did plan it. That's for sure.
It does. If you back up in the news story, it says allegations that he was deeply involved.
Right, and they planned it. I mean, but they
planning.
planned it. That's
So and of course she kills herself. And he watches and films it.
Yeah, it's appalling.
But
it's yet another
my
step.
Lord,
I mean, it's the worst one yet.
Yeah,
I think.
it really is. And then he goes on. Allegedly, this Tyrell, he tells a friend that helping her would be like getting away with murder.
Wow. Where did he say that? Is that
further down, the judge noted that the police found a receipt showing he had bought the rope and she had used in killing herself. One sentence down, he says he told a friend that'd be like getting away with murder by being involved in her death.
Wow. Well, you know what? I was going to say that this is totally precedent setting, and I think for the United States, maybe it is. Yeah. But do you guys remember that German man that advertised in the paper?
I do. I covered that extensively. Yeah. We covered that on the Thursday show one night because Eric and I, of course, we're a little weird sometimes on the Thursday show, and our listeners love it. But we were looking for what does human flesh taste like. And,
oh my God! And of course, you found this man.
We found that where this guy puts a Craigslist, just to let the audience know. Guy puts a Craigslist out saying, "Hey, you know what? Come over to my house. I'm gonna eat you." That pretty much is what it's gonna say. You're gonna be eaten. So guy shows up. They start drinking together, doing some drugs together, and the guy cuts his off and fries it and feeds it to the victim. And then they proceed to get in a bathtub where he starts chopping hunks of flesh off the guy, sizzling it up and eating it. And then,
the weird part is they spent like the entire weekend together where they watched movies, they read books, they hung out.
Would he grab a hunk once in a while while he was sitting there watching a movie? Hold still.
I mean, that's the bizarre part. I mean, the person, so just so people know, the perpetrator's name is Armin Mavis, but it's spelled really strange. So the last name is spelled Meiwes. Armin Mavis is kind of how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
But like when the German cops got there and they find this like cannibalized person.
Well, the guy wrote a note though. The victim, I don't mean to interrupt you, but didn't the victim write a note saying that I am willingly taking part in this?
Because he wanted to die anyway, right? Like the victim was suicidal.
Yeah, he was suicidal, and so he answers the Craigslist ad going, why not? Why not become a feast? And so not only does the guy eat him, but he eats himself to some extent. And it was a grisly story. And, man, did we get the emails about how much we covered that into depth. And so I'll kind of skirt around it. It's so grisly, but
the reason that it's similar is that it was somebody that was suicidal that willingly went to this person's house to be cannibalized and die. And when the German authorities got to Mavis's house, they didn't know what to do because they didn't think a crime had been committed.
Well, no, because it was of his own free will.
Right.
You know,
I mean, there was video too, wasn't there?
Yeah, they made movies together. They hung out. They, like you said, they were chumming it up. They seemed
to like each other. That's what people, like cops that did talk about it, said they genuinely seemed to like each other.
Yeah, they're having a great weekend together.
Unreal.
Well, remember he was on trial or there was something. Maybe it was the case was brought up again, or it was appeal. Something happened just a year or two ago, right?
Yeah.
It was back in 2005. He had a retrial, but he was arrested in 2002. But they kind of had to make up a charge.
Yeah.
It was manslaughter. He was sentenced to 8 years, but then what it was that I guess in Germany is different than we are here. Mavis had admitted that Brandis, that's his victim, had kind of expressed some regret for his actions midway through.
I would imagine, once he was hacking them up. Well, wait a minute, this isn't what I was signed up for.
And the German authorities heard that, and in 2005, they ordered a retrial after prosecutors appealed his original sentence. They believed he should have been convicted for murder.
Well, you never see that here.
Because you can do that in Germany.
Yeah, you can't do that here.
No.
You get one swipe at it, and that's it.
And at his retrial, I guess the psychologist said that Mavis could reoffend and still had fantasies about devouring the flesh of young people.
Well, what is it about cannibals, Clarissa? What is it about them? Have you ever met one?
Actually, yes. That's odd. I've only met one. Actually, when you said that, he popped into my mind, and I'm like, oh yeah, yes, I have.
And what do they describe it as? I mean, what do they tell you it's like?
Well, I mean, it's not like it's something that we talked about all that much.
You didn't say how'd you cook them up? Did you use Pam or butter? What did you do?
No. This type of, actually, the one that I met, it's kind of unfair because he he was also a bit psychotic. So
well, you'd have to be a cannibal. All right, in most cases.
Yeah, well, he didn't actually cook. He took bites of people, like just as they were like passing by. He got a bite. Yeah, he got a bite of one of the cops that worked on the unit, and the cop had a scar for the rest of his life.
Wow.
Yeah, and they wouldn't let me sit next to him in his treatment team conference, because typically I would sit next to the patient.
Yeah.
But I had just inherited this patient from a different doctor.
Yeah.
And I went to sit down next to him, and he was in cuffs. I mean, he was in cuffs and in the chair, and I thought, I'm good. And then the one of the officers said, no, don't sit there.
Why didn't they put a Hannibal Lecter mask on him?
Well, because those don't exist in actual prisons.
Oh, they don't? Oh.
No, they do not. And so they moved me further away, and I said, why are you moving me away from my patient? And he showed me his cheek, this cop that had a chunk out of it, and he said, this is why.
Oh, wow. Man.
Yeah, he liked to take chunks out of people.
He liked to sample the goods.
He did, and they figured that I would be really, because he didn't get to see women all that often, especially not younger women. They thought I would be sort of
on
something
the menu.
that you might,
you may be on the menu.
Right.
Yeah.
Essentially, yes. So.
Yeah. That would not be good. That would not be good.
Your young and tender flesh.
I was much younger then too. I was much younger. I had just started my career, and I couldn't believe it. At first, I thought the cops were just messing with me. Honestly,
well, I was
like,
too.
oh, very funny.
I would too. I'd be like, yeah, funny people. Did the
right,
guy go?
I thought he got the scar some other way. No big deal.
Did the guy go up to you? Go. You're gonna be tasty.
He was creepy. I'm not going to lie. He actually was kind of creepy. But he was quite psychotic. So he didn't really talk about what anything tasted like. We were just trying to get his symptoms under control. I don't know.
Well, how do you get those symptoms under control? I just like to eat people. All right. I love it. All right. I mean, it's good stuff.
Specific symptom. I don't know. I have no idea. And if any psychologist out there does know, let me know.
It reminds me of the K2 or whatever guy. Remember they're smoking those bath salts and they start running around eating each other?
Yeah, yes. No, I mean, maybe that's what it's like in his head. Maybe he's always in a sort of bath salt-ish induced haze. He always seemed, he was bipolar, I can say that his diagnosis. He was a rapid cycling bipolar. Also the only rapid cycling bipolar I've ever met. Wow. And he seemed happy quite a lot of the time.
Until he got mad and bite you out of nowhere. You'd be sitting there talking, Bill, what are you doing? I could just see that one going down.
And that's what they said. They said that he had so many victims because you could not predict it, because it's not like he got angry or upset. He'd be laughing at some joke and then just come in.
I'm also very disappointed that Hannibal Lecter mask does not exist.
I'm sorry. Well, at least it doesn't in the state of California. We do have these things called spit masks, which I suppose they could have put on him.
Well, they should have put something on him, like maybe a hockey mask.
Well, this is what people don't I think what most people don't understand about prison is that, especially, oh my God, every prison movie I've ever seen where they have metal trays and real silverware, yes. I'm like, what are they smoking? And in prison, putting a mask like a hockey mask or a Hannibal Lecter mask on somebody, even if they're cuffed at the time, you don't give them something that could be broken up into shards.
I got it. I get where you're going with that. I really do. And anything that can become a weapon, they figure will become a weapon. So It's not given and it's not considered. But, you got a guy running around randomly biting people just to taste people. Hey, you taste pretty good. That kind of stuff. That's a little strange.
That's why they didn't let him run around.
My 1-year-old likes to bite me once in a while. I yell at him.
Watch out, Joel.
I know, right? Right? But he's just doing it because he's a jerk. This guy was doing it because he's hungry. Come here.
You should get him a Hannibal Lecter mask.
I tried to, and I got a very disapproving look from, the boss. And,
you mean when you went for the fitting? When you took him in for the fitting?
Well, I took him in there, and then, of course, when I
can't believe that.
Yeah, when we took him to a leathersmith, and then the wife's like, why are we here? And I said, because I'm making a mask for this little hooligan. What? You can't do that. Watch me. No, none of that ever actually happened. But yes, it's...
except for all of it.
Except for all of it. But, I've never met anybody that ate anybody. I mean, Eric, have you ever met a cannibal?
Well, not that I'm aware of.
Well, see, yeah, you never know. And actually, tonight, the killer in the Adam Walsh case was also a cannibal.
Really? So he'd eat
him
up?
Yes, he was.
He'd fry him up, eat him up.
On quite a few occasions. he talked about doing things like that. Yeah, and it was pretty much proven that he did cannibalize his victims. So
wow,
got another one.
You know, and that's the thing. We hear about cannibals, of course, and it's usually associated like with Africa. Yeah, I mean, where there's the actual cannibalistic tribes that are eating their ancestors, you know, because they believe it gives them their knowledge and power and things such as that. It's more of an honor kind of thing. In fact, we had a guest on. He's escaping my name, but he sent me a book saying, because I was so intrigued by the subject matter, cannibalism, a perfectly natural history. Wow. You know, cannibalism is not necessarily as taboo to other cultures as it is to ours. And it's very common in both the animal kingdom and, of course, with people, given the differing circumstances. But in our culture, of course, you know, eating people is still really taboo. You don't want to do that.
And yet we think taxidermying animals is completely fine.
Yeah, well, yeah, that is true. But, you know.
I mean, that's kind of weird, too, when you think about it.
I have fish on the wall. They're taxidermied.
Oh, yeah, so does my dad. And for whatever reason, no, it doesn't really bother me. It doesn't bother me. I just think it's kind of interesting that this is so taboo, yet we can peel off the skin of an animal, stuff it, and put it in our living room. That's fine.
That's an animal.
True. So you wouldn't do that to grandma?
Well, maybe not. I mean, all depends on whether or not I can put an apple in her mouth.
If I was the proprietor of the Bates Motel, I would. And by the way, Joel, the author's name was Bill Shutt.
That's what it was. Thank you, Eric. Thanks a ton, man.
Welcome.
And remember we discussed that, Eric, and we went into it. And
absolutely.
And you know, because cannibalism that's what's eating us. Come on. And we were kind of curious about it. But now that we hear Clarissa met an actual real cannibal, I mean, he didn't have a bone through his nose or anything.
No. He looked, and the thing is, I did not think anything of it because honestly, he was kind of a little guy, looked kind of hyper, but a little guy. He didn't seem threatening.
Yeah, until he ate you. Come here. Wow. I mean, I bet you he's like a pit bull once he clamped on, man. There's just no way to get him off of there.
Actually, that's what the officer said. He said that because I said I was kind of surprised because the officer was quite big. I would say the officer was probably 6'3", 230, 240. And this guy was honestly he was almost shorter than me. He was probably about 5'7". And so I'm like, what? How did this happen? Like, how did he actually get the chunk of flesh out of your cheek? Because that had to have been what happened.
Riddle me
this.
And he
said he jumped forward like a dog, like a
spider monkey.
Yes, he jumped forward, and he said, when his teeth went in, and he just would not let go. They were hitting him with batons, and he would not let go.
They had to cut off his head like a snapping turtle. And that's what happened to me, by the way. Have I ever told you that?
You got your head cut off?
No. When I first moved to Ohio, and I was a mere lad, and we actually had a small lake, large pond in our backyard. And there were something like, 5-6 houses that surrounded the lake, so we shared ownership of the lake. So what's the first thing you're going to do? It was summertime.
Go swimming.
Go swimming at night,
exactly.
Right?
Yes, absolutely.
So we go swimming at night, and with the kid who lived next door, he's my age, I think exactly. This was so odd. We moved into this house. On the left side, 5 boys. On the right side, 5 girls. What are the odds?
Wow. That is
how bizarre.
That's some pretty good odds if you ask me.
Well, I think they may have gotten together from time to time. There's a little bit of an age difference between the sets. Anyway. So my friend who lived next door, my new friend, he decides, if we're swimming, man, I might as well be skinny dipping, right? So he jettisons his bathing suit. I hear a scream. This is like 2 a.m. I hear a blood-curdling scream, and a snapping turtle had taken ownership of his privates.
Not the
Now,
wow,
it wasn't
not the Franks and Beans.
It was kind of like I think it was more like the general area, if you know what I mean. It wasn't exactly.
Oh my
but anyway.
Lord.
Had to cut the head off that damn turtle.
Oh, not the Franks and
Well, that was
Beans.
a lesson. You know one thing I never did for the rest of my life.
Yeah, swam in lakes where turtles are present.
Exactly, skinny dipping.
Skinny dip.
No,
No skinny dipping. Yeah, you don't want that
wear
to
that
happen to
suit.
you.
In fact, I
Wow.
took to wearing a metal bathing
A
suit.
metal one. Look, I have this Knight's mail here, right here, chain mail, and it'll never get through
When
me.
it lacked in buoyancy, it made up for it in protection.
It'll never get through this, ever. Wow. Well, we got to run a break here. When we come back, more of your true crime headlines. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this. After Hours AM, the Criminal Code, will be right back after a word from these sponsors.
Green light. Hey girl, school zone. I'm getting hungry. Car changing lanes. You want to meet me for pizza? Stop sign. Intersection clear. Yeah, street. Pizza sounds good. Ballin Street? Girlin Street!
It's hard to concentrate on two things at once, like texting and driving. Stop the text, stop the wrecks. How will you stop texting and driving? Tell us at stoptextstopwrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
This is Jen McGowan, founder of Wayward Souls Promotions, a company dedicated to helping individuals, teams, radio shows, and others that are seeking exposure for their individual events, conventions, and shows. We offer a wide variety of advertising, such as web-based article, social media posts, podcast advertisement, and so on. Contact us at paranormalpromotion@gmail.com, visit us on Facebook at Wayward Souls Promotions, and visit our website at www.waywardsoulspromotions.com.
Welcome back to After Hours AM, the Criminal Code. And welcome back to After Hours AM, the Criminal Code. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis, right along with me,
Eric Olsen and
Dr. Clarissa Cole.
Well, guys, we kind of covered, that last story, of course, which is tragic, where this adult guy, I guess 18 years old, he coerced a young 16-year-old girl into killing herself and filming it. And then we kind of switched gears into cannibalism. How we got there, I don't know. But Clarissa, where do we go next in the strange tales of true crime?
Well, I do have stuff from some of our home states, but before I get there, I wanted to go to, it's really, if you watch the video without knowing what's happening, it's kind of heartwarming until you realize what it is. So, surveillance video caught thieves hugging excitedly after finding money in the car that they broke into.
What?
And it's three guys that are hugging, like those big family hugs where you jump around.
Yeah, I love
group
you.
hug.
Yeah, group hug.
Yes.
Group hug. Yeah. Okay, so they're on surveillance video, and these guys are hugging it out, basically.
They're really excited. It looks like a Vince Vaughn movie.
Ah, yes. The bromance is on. Yeah, the bromance is on, is what you're saying. So,
Yes.
So they catch them. They watch this loving embrace of joy after they had decided that they're going to break into a car, right?
They broke into the car, and I guess what happened was the woman that was stolen from, she had left her rent money in the car, so it was quite a bit of money. It was hundreds of dollars. And these guys broke into the car, and one of the looters, the surveillance video caught the looters, and one of the men found the money. He appeared to show the others before they could be seen dancing and jumping around.
Jump around.
Before the group hug.
Jump around. Leave your seat and get down. Wow.
Jump out your seat and jump around. Jump around.
It's not what what you think of when you think of like thugs.
So these thugs, these
they were dancing around the maypole.
So these criminals, these hardened criminals, decide, hey, we're gonna stop after we got this hundreds of dollars. We're gonna stop and we're gonna sing "We Are Family" and then hug each other.
Yeah, and do a little dance.
Yeah. So they do a little dance and everything else. So now tell me that these rocket scientists got caught.
They have not been caught yet.
The dancing thieves are still on the lam?
Yes, they are still on the lam. And one of them you should be able to recognize because his pants are halfway off of his backside.
Yes, there's no one like that out
No,
there.
gosh,
No,
no one
just
that
this
wears
guy.
that. Just that guy right there. You'll know him when you see his underwear. That's him that did it. So a woman who lives in the area said her daughter-in-law accidentally left the car unlocked that evening and discovered that her rent money had been stolen out of her purse, Fox 8 reports. And this happened in, where did this happen now?
Virginia in Henrico County.
Ah, look at that. And I'm looking at this now. Wow, this the police are sounding like they're having a little bit of fun with this video too, though.
It is. I don't think nobody should steal. It's horrible. I feel bad for the victim, and at the same time, I'm weirdly tickled by it.
It's kind of weird. I'm watching the video right now without sound, and these guys really and genuinely love each other. I mean, look at them go, and they're dancing. I mean, they really are happy about getting this rent money. You would think that they won the Powerball or something. The way that they're dancing around and frolicking.
To myself, like, I would hate if this happened to me, but if I saw how joyful they were and the hugging, I might be like, I don't know, man. Maybe you need it more than I do.
Maybe you need that a little bit more than I do. Now, retired Henrico Deputy Christopher Wilson told WTVR that this video makes my blood boil. Well, you're retired, okay? There's not much you can do about it, all right? Other than boiling your blood, all right? So, unless you're actually going to crack the case, really, who cares what you have to say?
I like that his quote was, it made his blood boil, that they need to be taught some manners.
Yeah.
And to respect other people's property. I'm like, where is this guy back from 19? It's great.
What century?
1953 call that wants his thugs back.
I remember Socrates lamenting the state of the youth,
Yeah.
Nothing new there. Get off my lawn.
Well, Wilson reportedly...
You dancing thief.
Get out of here, you tiny dancers. What are you doing?
From Mayberry,
Wilson reportedly felt guilty because she thought that he had heard a noise at the time of the incident, but didn't go check on it. I always check on it. If you hear a noise, go check on it. That's my...
Unless it's joyful dancing.
Well, maybe you would have thought it was, people dancing or trying out for Dance to the Stars or something. We went out there.
Oh, it's just the Satanists again.
That's just them. It's those damn Satanists again. Get out of here with your weird...
dancing and frolicking. What is with them?
Get out of here with your weird rituals and virgin sacrifice. Get out of here. Yeah. Really, what do you... Jeez, these guys! I keep
that happens at our house all the time. We have woods in back of our house, and the frickin' Satanists that live out there. I mean, you always hear them having festivals and frolicking and dancing around. I don't think they ever found anyone's rent money.
So wait, the Satanists are having festivals?
Oh, they go back. Oh, I can't say that. They go nuts out there, what they're wearing with their flowy things. They look like a bunch of Stevie Nickses out
I'm
there,
waiting for you to say those dab-nabbit kids.
Well, yeah, of course, obviously.
Dab-nab you kids, get out of here.
They live in the trees and they hollow them out. I don't know, some live underground, maybe.
Wow,
I don't know.
Man, you got quite the community.
There's an ancient Indian burial ground. You know how it is, man.
That old yarn. I hear you, that old yarn.
Oh, there's a 300-year-old cheese factory and stories of people being drowned in curds.
Yes,
you know how it goes.
Curds and away. Yep, I hear you. I would have thought that would have happened in Wisconsin, not Ohio, but hey, man. I guess
we're not far.
Speaking of Wisconsin, I have a Wisconsin story for you.
We love Wisconsin stories.
Yes, it is where a man blames an alien for his crime spree.
Oh, yes, please regale us with this tale.
Well, a Wisconsin man faces a litany of charges after repeatedly vandalizing a home, purportedly at the behest of aliens.
So you're saying the aliens came and told him, hey, Bob, why don't you go ahead and destroy that house over there, would you?
Well, I mean, to be fair, I do think that this man is probably ill because over the course of the last 3 weeks, he has defaced the same residence in the city of Sheboygan, smashing windows and spray painting DNA on the side of the home.
With his blood, right? That way the DNA actually does come into play.
I don't know.
What was that serial killer movie that took place in Wisconsin? And they talked about Sheboygan. Wait.
Yeah, it's just a fun word to say.
What was that?
Oh, goodness. Oh, Wisconsin's mentioned in so many movies. It really is.
Mm-hmm. It was in disguise. He was in disguise, and they didn't recognize him. And I'll have to go look it up.
Yeah, so not only is it fun to say Sheboygan, but
I love to say Sheboygan.
I do as well. And this guy, there has to be something said for consistency, though. He goes to the same house and does it over and over. Maybe he has OCD on top of it. He just quite hasn't done it correctly yet.
He's got to get it right.
He has to get it right, and he's just obsessing about it.
Or maybe he likes Sheboygan.
Or maybe he just likes to say Sheboygan.
I like to write it down and then stuff it down my pants.
Well, this guy's name will make you happy then. His last name is Ifachak.
Ooh. He belongs.
I swear I did not pick these stories because of the names.
So now this guy is now they caught him, obviously, because they're talking about him. What's he looking at? I mean, and obviously the alien defense is not going to work very well.
No, and these are going to be minor charges. I don't know if it's even going to rise to the level of a felony. But what he said, he may do not guilty by reason of insanity because he claims to be the victim of an ET virus that has torn his life asunder and caused him to lash out at the home in question. He explained that the DNA message on the side of the house was his way of calling attention to the fact that the aliens have altered his genetic material as a way of making him shorter.
Damn!
Way of making him shorter.
There's a lot going on there,
and Pasunder. What? Say that again? Wow.
Tearing his life asunder.
Well, who says that anymore? Wow, man.
The guy from Mayberry.
Is he like the? Yeah, maybe he's.
You know who's going to be really mad though?
Who's that?
The aliens he ratted out.
That is true. There is going to be a reckoning.
I mean,
now.
They're going to come and get him, and they're going to make him even shorter.
Yep. You were complaining before. We're not done yet now, short pants. And
Stumpy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, saw it off, little guy. Look at you. You're just tiny now.
Yeah, you could star in Game of Thrones, bro.
There's a guild looking for you that has lollipops. Get over to it.
Oh, jeez. Oh, that was terrible. Oh, goodness. So that's the Wisconsin
Down on the Yellow Brick Road.
But there is a story from Minnesota.
Oh, is there?
No.
Oh,
yes.
Boy.
Oh, yes.
Florida of the North?
Florida of the North.
It's getting there, man. This is... A motorcyclist was ticketed for wearing a panda suit on the highway.
Oh, not again.
On a motorcycle, by the way. It's not like he was just standing on the highway.
How is that any different from wearing your leathers?
Yeah, maybe he's doing it for safety.
Exactly. Protection against road rash.
Yeah, so why did they ticket him? Because his attire that they didn't like? Do they not like panda bears?
Vision? Was it obstructed vision?
Yeah, I was going to say a concerned driver passed this person, and to be honest, I'd be concerned too. Okay,
there's a panda on a motorcycle.
How often do you see that?
Call the Chinese consulate.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe he's just trying to get to the consulate. Maybe he's trying to go home. Give that bear a break.
Eucalyptus leaves.
But he still has his tennis shoes on. So
well, at least there's some safety involved. And,
yes.
And so they pulled him over. And I would imagine being Minnesota and being, anti-bear, evidently, they would have really hit him like a reckless driving or some ridiculous charge like that.
I think that they did just ticket him, but they felt the need. Sorry, I'm laughing already. They felt the need to issue this statement to the public.
Well, yeah, because how often do you see a panda? This
is the statement. Halloween is not for a month. And even if Halloween was today, it wouldn't be okay or legal, in case you were wondering.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
You know,
It had to be obstructed vision. I assume he had the head on.
Yes, he did have the. Yes,
he
he's
did.
a panda.
Oh, I'm looking at the video here, or
This
the
was no
the
half-ass
picture.
panda.
No, he went all out. He had it all. He had it all, except for the hands weren't covered, and he's wearing
He
tennis
went
shoes.
full panda.
He went
I
full
think
panda.
I think it might be a panda wearing gloves, though.
Nobody ever goes full panda. You don't go full panda.
Well, Sean Penn knows you never go full tard.
Oh man, so my home state has a guy defacing houses at the behest of aliens. Your home state, Joel, has motorcycle riding pandas.
Well, yeah, I mean, really. I mean, I'd rather have the DNA guy than the panda bear man. If I had to choose one, at least, you know, he has a great story where the panda guy is just stupid.
He probably drove to Minnesota from Wisconsin. Don't worry about it.
He probably came over across the bridge. Yeah, I'm here visiting.
So I feel bad, Eric, because I could not find an Ohio story, but I have a Florida. I have a Florida
terrible.
story.
Good.
You just come over and cover my backyard, man.
He's got the Satanists back there.
We got Satanists
they're
running
conjuring.
amok and living in trees and having parties.
They're
and
conjuring right now as we
festive
speak.
thing. Conjuring. They're always conjuring. They're tapping on my window, you know, grinning with that rictus, weird, evil smile. It's a nuisance, and the kids get annoyed.
I was going to say, are you sure those aren't just your kids, or?
Well, I hadn't
Now
thought
you
about
think
that.
about that, it might be just
Yeah.
your kids. Who knows?
I mean,
Who knows?
they seem happy, you know.
Is there
Maybe
any
that's-
rhythmic dancing going on back there in
Well,
the
of
woods?
course not, needless to say. And, you know, you see weird beams of light heading toward the sky. I don't know, man. It's,
yeah.
You do have to videotape that.
Yeah, you'd have to get out there.
One of the perils of home ownership.
You know,
Alien
you need to
abductions
go interview these people and
Satanists in the
you know,
backyard.
find out what they're conjuring up and what they're using. for
Werewolves
conjuring.
peeking
Yeah.
around trees.
You know, it is almost Halloween, right? Maybe the stuff you're seeing is props, all right? I'm just saying, just going on a limb. It could be people doing Halloween-type activities.
Could be, except
Could be.
none of our neighbors believe in Halloween.
Oh, one of those kind of blocks.
What do you mean they don't believe in it? It exists.
Oh, well, that's true. It's contrary to their spiritual
What?
doctrine.
Really?
Oh.
We'll put it that way.
Man, you know...
Contrary to their spiritual doctrine.
Yeah, no, I get where you're going to that. I know Halloween isn't for everybody, but gosh darn it, it's a good time.
It's so fun.
It's just a good time right there. I bet you they love coming to your...
It's way fun.
What they should do, what you should do, Clarissa, is you should get some severed heads and put them on stakes out front of your house, is what you should do.
Well, I'm dressing up as Carrie this year.
Ooh.
Oh, okay,
And
okay.
I'm helping. I used to have a neighbor back in the old town that I lived in who is actually a Hollywood makeup effect artist.
See, he'd help you once in a while.
Oh man, no, he does. Halloween is his favorite holiday, and it like people from all over the region come to his house. So I promised to play Carrie, so that's what I'm doing.
All right, sounds great.
Which Carrie?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean like from the old one or the new one?
Yeah.
Oh, Sissy Spacek version, please.
You have
Of
to.
course.
You have to.
Yeah.
You have to. Well,
To honor the classic.
No Chloe Grace Moretz for you.
No. Okay. Florida story.
Okay, I'm ready.
Because
It's the Minnesota of the South.
Yes. The irony. I don't know if it's irony. You're going to have to tell me what kind of comedy this is after I tell you the story. A man who was arrested after the police mistook the glaze on his Krispy Kreme donut for crystal meth has received a $37,500 settlement.
Okay, the police of all people should know the difference between glaze and a donut and crystal meth.
Thank you.
They should
With
be able
their
to
eyes
sniff.
closed.
Yeah, they should be able to sniff that crap out like you wouldn't believe. I would swear to God that they're trained like dogs, like they train their own dogs to sniff out donuts. It's unreal. I've seen them in action. It's quite interesting. So there's a guy that gets arrested, right? And they mistook his glaze on his Krispy Kreme donut for crystal meth. and they give the guy $37,500 settlement. Man, that's a whole lot of donuts.
Well, I imagine they arrested him, and he was probably roughed up, and he was
They
interrogated.
arrested him. They put his picture online. He couldn't work.
Man. Yeah. Wow. So
they arrested him. They put him in jail. They called his papa to throw his bail. His papa said, son. Oh, wait, that's something completely different.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's hot rod thinking.
Now, what happens to the police? I mean, okay, something like this clearly goes down, and they didn't do their due diligence as police officers and investigators.
They didn't taste it.
They didn't taste the darn stuff.
Always taste the cocaine. Everyone knows that.
I've seen every cop movie, I swear to God, and they always taste it first. And they go...
With their little finger. They
exactly.
Put
and they always look at the other one and go, yep, that's China White.
It's always the little finger.
And they always say it's China White when they're done.
They gingerly put it down. They touch their tongue. Ha ha! That knowing look sweeps across their face.
Yeah, it's China White.
Oh, wait, this is a donut.
It was, I guess, some of the Krispy Kreme glaze had fallen off the donut onto the floorboards, and they saw it on the floorboards. And the guy, Daniel Rushing, Daniel Rushing actually said to them, "Oh, that's probably little bits from the Krispy Kreme donut I ate," and they did not believe him. They arrested him anyway.
So now they roughed him up, like Eric said. They held him, they arrested him, took him in. 2 roadside drug tests tested positive for illegal substance. So the guy probably, I don't know, I mean, what substance it doesn't cite here, what he tested illegally for in his
Well, they said that the test kits so they tested in the field kits. So they have field kits that they bring out with them. They said that the glaze tested positive for amphetamine in both field tests.
Well, yeah, sugar, man. Sugar, the nature's amphetamine.
It should not have tested positive. So,
it should be a little more specific.
You would think so.
A lot more specific.
So now, what are the cops could be facing?
Krispy Kreme, crystal meth, come see, come saw.
Are they going to be, dealing with these police? I mean, come on.
Yes, they have. Apparently, it looks like the one police officer was given a written reprimand, a sternly worded letter, and a box of Krispy Kreme so that they could figure out the difference.
I was going to say, have an example next time they pull someone over.
I'll bet. Interestingly, and I've been, of course, joshing quite a bit, but seriously, I bet the settlement was quite a bit lower than it might have been because he did test positive for something. It was probably marijuana, which led to the donuts.
Yeah, because it always does. Yes, the Orlando Police Department, it sounds like they tried to make it good. I guess they ended up doing another training with more than 730 officers on how to properly use the field test kits.
You know, what I would have done is I would have faked whiplash and everything else. Oh, these cops, they beat me to a pulp.
That's a funny story, though.
Yeah, that is funny. But, I guess a bigger story, though, is, of course, the cops not knowing any better. I mean, these are people we rely upon to protect us all, and they can't even tell the difference between a Krispy Kreme donut and crystal meth. Wow, what does that say about the department?
Nothing good, but it sounds to me, I mean, my guess is they just really jumped to conclusions. The conclusion was made as they literally, was this at night or was it daytime? Does it say?
It does not say. I don't know.
All right, but anyway, they saw the glint. They saw the glistening, and that was it. They made their assumptions.
I'm surprised the cops to go, I smell that. That's Krispy Kreme. He's got it.
Yeah, I know what that is.
We're going to get him right now. Pull him over, Jim. We'll get those Krispy Kreme.
But, considering, it's pretty serious to impugn someone's reputation and to, impact their ability to work and, a false arrest, obviously. So the fact that it was that small, that's really not
it was
that
really
big.
tiny. I was thinking it would have been a 1 from that, like 137,000, not 37,000.
Exactly. So there definitely were perceived to be mitigating circumstances, it sounds like.
Yeah, well, and can you imagine now being those cops? The teasing that they're going through?
Will the jokes ever end?
Oh, probably not. They probably got free donuts from somebody and going, hey, that's a donut, you see? Yeah,
oh man, no, it would be really terrible. And actually, I mean, there's a piece of me that feels really bad about, like, if for some reason the field kits were messed up somehow. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, but 2 of them messed up in a row. I don't know. I think the
sounds
cops
like they didn't know
up.
how to use them.
Yeah, I agree.
And again, they jumped to conclusions. Nothing was going to get in the way of that conclusion. You know, it's just don't let facts get in the way. No. I have made up my mind.
A guy I knew, right? He got pulled over for something totally stupid, and of course they're harassing him. And he says, "Hey, isn't there innocent people you should be shooting right now?" Right to the cops.
Oh no!
I'm like, shut up, man! You don't say that. And he says, "I did. I wasn't with him." He tells his long tail he's pulled over. And for whatever it was something. No, his license plate came back to a stolen car. Well, he's like, I've owned this car for 10 years, and the license plates have been, they're my plates. So he had to produce paperwork to the effect, which also begs the question why they're running his plates for no good reason. That's a whole nother can of worms. And so they rough him up a little bit. They actually go on the car and everything else. He looks at this cop, and this guy actually is a lawyer of all things. He says, shouldn't you be out killing innocent people right now?
Oh, man.
Oh my goodness. And that's,
don't poke the bear.
Well, the case that's coming up, though, the whole Adam Walsh thing, there's a lot of police misconduct in that.
Yeah.
I mean, it is kind of crazy how rampant it seems to be.
Well, and that's the thing. And of course, we've discussed that before, and I'll qualify it like I always do, and I do believe this, and that 99% of our men and women in blue are good people, and they do everything like they should. And it only takes that 1% that makes the news to make it seem like that it's all of them. So it kind of makes you wonder who's policing the police. Obviously, there's internal affairs that are supposed to be taking care of this, and evidently they're not doing their due diligence to make sure that's not happening.
Well, and I think it's really difficult too when you've got such a powerful organization, like when I work in the Department of Corrections, and it can be really difficult to get rid of the bad apples sometimes when you've got very powerful unions. And I know that sounds bad, but it's hard to bring in some of the new, people or people that are good when you can't get rid of the
But what
bad
happens
apples.
when they clearly violate your civil liberties? Where they're trampling all over all of your rights, and who stands up for those people?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, I think that a lot of times the punishments are not harsh enough because it's a fundamental right, and it makes me sick to my stomach when I see them taking advantage of the power that they have. Because to be honest with you, the vast majority of the cops that I know and associate with are amazing people.
Yeah, and we have a
people.
lot of law enforcement that listen to this show, and God bless you all. We really always pray for you guys, and we really hope you're always safe, and we got your back. But it's always that 1%. A lot of them, I've spoken with them. They go, we've seen misconduct, and there's misconduct, and then there's gross misconduct.
Right.
And the problem is it's and the thing of it is one cop told me, we were talking, it's kind of sidebar. He says, cell phone cameras have really shed a light on what's wrong.
Yeah.
Of what's going on in this country and with law enforcement. It's like you said, hey, most of us just want to go home at the end of the night, see our kids. It's a job. But some of them out there should not have badges. And there was a news story out there that I came across. There's 137 cops in my state of Minnesota that have criminal records and still have badges.
Well, they don't some states don't do okay. So when I used to work in Texas, they had to pass a psych exam, right?
Yeah.
To become a cop. That was the last step. And I did some of these psych exams, but I'll tell you right now, because I'm far away from it and I can talk about it. There were people that I flunked on these exams for very good reason. But if they knew somebody in the department, they got through anyway.
Wow, man, that's scary. That's scary because these people are the line between us and chaos.
Absolutely. There was one kid. He was just a kid. I flunked him because he was violent. I mean, he wanted to become basically a prison guard down there so that he could rough up as many criminals as possible. And he was pretty open about saying it.
I want to bust heads. Yeah,
exactly right. And so I'm like, no, this guy definitely can't be a cop.
Yeah.
He got through because his dad knew somebody.
That is horrible to hear. We got to run a break. We come back. We're going to be talking, of course, about the Adam Walsh case. And it's going to be really interesting what Joe Matthews has to say about the case. And
a very good law enforcement.
Inner workings of the case. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this. After Hours AM, the Criminal Code. We'll be right back after a word from these sponsors.
Ranger Station, Ranger speaking.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to report a bear sighting.
Location.
My backyard.
Oh, your backyard. Try telling a bear that.
I did, and this bear talked back.
Talking bear, that's rich.
No, wait, it was Smokey Bear.
Smokey? Why didn't you say so?
I did say so.
Continue.
I was burning yard waste.
No, boy.
He told me to burn legally and responsibly, and to remember that if it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave.
And as always, he's right. You know, 9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans. That means 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented.
Yeah, I know that now.
Thanks to me.
Actually, thanks to Smokey.
As usual, the talking bear gets all the credit. Get your Smokey on. Always burn responsibly and contact your local fire department for open burning regulations. Because 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented. Brought to you by Smokey Bear, the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council. Learn more at smokeybear.com. Only you can prevent wildfires.
Hi, Tom Bodette. If you can hear me, then you have an internet connection, which means you can do cool things online, like listen to streaming radio, obviously, or watch a video of a monkey washing a cat. Let your freak flag fly. Or you can book a room at a great price at Motel6.com. Isn't the internet wonderful? Everything you want right at your fingertips, and whoa, did not need to see that. I'm Tom Bodette for Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you.
This is Jen McGowan, founder of Wayward Souls Promotions, a company dedicated to helping individuals, teams, radio shows, and others that are seeking exposure for their individual events, conventions, and shows. We offer a wide variety of advertising, such as web-based article, social media posts, podcast advertisement, and so on. Contact us at paranormalpromotion@gmail.com, visit us on Facebook at Wayward Souls Promotions, and visit our website at www.waywardsoulspromotions.com.
Excuse me. Thousands of cancer patients can't afford a place to stay when the best treatment is far from home. A room shouldn't be the difference between life and death. Let's make sure that everyone who needs a room gets one. Let's make some noise. Let's help the American Cancer Society finish the fight.
Text ROOM to 41518 to donate $10. Only in the forest can you see this. But nothing beats the moment you see that.
Cool!
That's your child's eyes opening up to a world of possibilities.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org. Learn about forests near you and discover cool things to do when you go. And you might just see this. Visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to After Hours AM, the Criminal Code. Welcome back to After Hours AM, everybody, the Criminal Code Edition. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. Right along with me,
Eric Olsen and
Dr. Clarissa Cole.
Wow, we have a great guest on tonight, and we are going to be talking, of course, about the Adam Walsh case. And, of course, that's John Walsh, America's Most Wanted fame. And it's a tough case, guys. And getting into it, I'm going to let everyone know that has never heard the case. It's a very graphic case. So just letting you know going into it, it does deal with a child. And, again, just a bit of a disclaimer, because a lot of us are parents out there. And a lot of us don't want to hear about this, but at the same time, we have to hear about stuff like this. So we understand that it's real. And we understand the pain that can be inflicted by one person. And that being said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and hand it on over to Eric Olsen. And, of course, we have Dr. Clarissa Cole. I forgot to do the proper introduction, but I want to give that bit of a disclaimer before we got underway.
All righty. Joe Matthews is a retired Miami Beach detective sergeant, public speaker, and criminal investigator and analyst specializing in cold case homicides. He analyzes court and police case files, reports evidence, depositions, recorded interviews, and statements for case irregularities. He directs stalled investigations by generating crime scene hypotheses and motives to identify suspects for case resolution. Joe is also accepted as an expert witness in state and U.S. federal court as it relates to investigative procedures, investigative interviewing and interrogation, criminal investigative standard procedures, and policies of homicide investigations. Well, what has he done? Supervised and conducted over 1,000 death investigations during a 29-year police career as detective sergeant, supervisor in charge of homicide, sex crimes, and chief polygraph examiner for the city of Miami Beach, Florida Police Department. Supervisor in charge of Miami Beach Police SWAT team. Dang. After that, 12 years on-screen senior criminal investigator for Fox Broadcasting's America's Most Wanted, 12 years on-screen news contributor, analyst, and criminal investigator for Fox News Channel. The bio goes on for pages and years and decades, my friends. It is indeed fascinating and complete. You want to pick up all that information, go to Joe's website. And Joe can be found at joematthewsandassociates.com. All right, the book we're talking about, or the case we're talking about, of course, is Adam Walsh. The book that Joe co-wrote is Bringing Adam Home, The Abduction That Changed America. And I'm not going to give the details of the case, but I'll give a little bit of information. Bringing Adam Home, The Abduction That Changed America, co-written with Les Standiford, begins with Adam's abduction and ends with the Hollywood, Florida PD closing the case more than 15 years later. Imagine having that hanging. Essentially, the Hollywood PD had all the information they needed to implicate serial killer Otis Toole in the murder. And by the way, he looks like an Otis Toole. However, the lead investigator on the case, who only had 3 years' experience on the police force, strongly believed that a Walsh family friend was the culprit. It seemed as if the lead detective did everything in his power to disprove the fact that Toole was the killer, including not processing evidence such as photographs of the inside of Toole's car where he reportedly murdered Adam. And I will go no further because it gets very grim. But suffice to say, it was a bestseller, and it's amazing, amazing work, and it really is a case that changed America. Welcome to the program, Joe Matthews.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, Joe, I mean, really, you're right. This is a case that, as Eric said, that changed a lot of things, and it's a sad case, but it's also a case of justice. And could you take us through the case? I mean, how did Adam get taken and the backstory of what led up to that abduction?
Okay, when you heard enough, just say, okay, Joe, that's enough. Okay?
Yep, we can do that.
On July 27th, 1981, Adam went missing from a Sears store. His mother went there with him, as she did many, many times. And she was within 15, 20 yards of him the whole time. She was buying a lamp, and he was playing a video game with another young boy that I ended up, many years later. The case was solved not 15, but 27 years after it happened. And And she heard the video game, Pac-Man, it would just come out or whatever, and she had heard it in the background, and she was gone for about 15 minutes. And when she came back, she saw it was on a reel, and it was just the noise of the computer game, and his son wasn't there. And she started looking within the store. They did an announcement. They talked to a security guard, a young lady that was either her first or second day on the job, and she knew nothing about it. And the search went within the store. Then when they couldn't find him, they notified the police, and it all went down from there. Then about 3 or 4 days later, I heard about it on the news that day, and when I got home that night, I have 4 children, and the irony of it is my oldest son is 1 day older than Adam, and my wife was on the way with the 4 kids to the Sears store and there's a cafeteria there. She was going to take them to lunch, and only because one of them was misbehaving and it created havoc in the car that she turned around and went home. And she said to me when I got home that night that this little boy's missing. My God, what if he was kidnapped? I said, I don't think so. He probably just got lost. They'll find him, and made light of it. And then about 2 or 3 days later, the Hollywood police called Miami Beach police and asked if they would allow me to come over and assist them by conducting polygraph tests. And I was happy to. The first person on the list that was made up was John Walsh. But for me, when I first got there, I met with a lieutenant, and he introduced me to the sergeant and the lead investigator, Jack Hoffman. And there's certain courtesies that we all extend to each other, but I didn't feel welcomed by Jack as soon as I met him for the first time. I mean, when they were introducing me, he didn't get up from his seat, to just shake hands or anything. He just looked up and said, "Yeah, hi." And that was the extent of it.
Wow, real personable. Said, okay. Yeah, real personable moment right there. So sorry I just had to interject there.
But it set the pattern, of his attitude towards me and towards the investigation. And I said to him, I said, before I conduct any polygraphs, I want to know everything you know and know, I'll formulate the questions as I deem are necessary. And I'm monitoring everything. And I went to Jack in a very cordial, professional way. And I said, Jack, with all due respect, I said, in Miami Beach, when I conduct a, homicide investigation, I assign one detective to be responsible for all the leads that come in, no matter where they're coming from. And he assigns it to a detective, and he's the one that demands the supplemental report as to what the lead showed. And then they'll present it to you, that report, and then you decide if you feel a follow-up is necessary.
Sure.
I said, right now, the phone is ringing. Whoever is close to a phone is answering it. And I see, information being written down on napkins, on scrap pieces of paper. And then they go to lunch and come back, and some are still there. The napkins are used by somebody who didn't have a napkin. Yeah. And that information is gone. So and his response was, okay, when you go back to Miami Beach, you do it your way. We're in Hollywood, and I'll do it my way. And I said, okay. Then I have very little tolerance for things like that. And I decided, okay, fine. He's not receptive to me. And I went to the lieutenant. And I didn't say I told this to the detective. I just told him what I, saw.
Sure.
And when a police supervisor tells you, okay, I'll look into it, then nothing's going to be done.
Yeah, get stonewalled right then and there kind of deal.
Yeah, it's in every industry. Yeah, okay, I'll look into it,
Yeah.
It was Weinstein. Everybody, when they were complaining about him, oh, yeah, okay, we'll look into it. You know what I mean? But nothing was done.
Before you go further, Joe, can I ask you a question?
Anything, go ahead.
What was it like to? This is hard for me because I don't deal with victims that often. What was it like to see, like John Walsh, and have to polygraph him about his own son? I wanted to ask you that question because it just seems like it would be so difficult.
See, the polygraph is more than just what you see on TV, asking a question and looking at the response.
Yeah.
The question, it's an intense interview that based on the information he provides during that interview, it helps you formulate your question so outside issues don't affect the test. As an example, excuse me, let's say, God forbid, the person being tested, his brother died of a drug overdose. But the person being tested never used drugs in his entire life.
Yeah.
But there would be a false positive if I didn't know that and restructured the question by saying, other than the tragic death of your brother, have you personally ever snorted cocaine? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's why the interview is so important. In many cases, when I did homicide investigations in the Crown, for the Crown in Canada, polygraph examinations, very few polygraphs were actually conducted because I was able to obtain confessions, in the pre-interview. So my interview with John, it was over 10 hours, and only the last hour was the actual examination. And I found John to be one of the nicest, sincere, loving men I've ever met. I mean, I just really liked him.
Yeah.
And what you see on TV is who he is. I mean, there's no pretense or anything. You know what I mean? It is what it is.
Well, he went on. And John Walsh, of course, just to give everyone an insight that might not know who we're talking about and might be living under a rock, is the founder and the host of America's Most Wanted. And so he took this tragedy and really turned around and did some very positive things and brought a lot of people to justice.
Absolutely. And actually, you got to give him and his wife, Reve Walsh, credit for the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children. I mean, they spearheaded that. And that is a powerful, government subsidized organization. And it's done miracle work for missing and exploited children.
It's hard to even, for me, like I'm a bit younger. I was young when Adam Walsh went missing. Of course, I did hear about it. But to think back to that time period, this is the 80s that we're talking about. So, I mean, for me, it doesn't seem that long ago. In 1981, there was no national place that you could register that a child was missing. Nothing at all.
There was no cookbook on how to even investigate a missing child. That's why, Hollywood today is a. I mean, it was always a good police department. It just happened, the luck of the draw. The wrong detective with no supervision, did the investigation. Otherwise, that case would have been solved the first time Ottis Toole came to light.
Well,
but now there's policies, procedures, and organizations and federal agencies and state agencies that work with you anytime a child is missing. But back then, John was so creative. There was. You got to look at the time period. There was no, like social media where you could, internet, where you could communicate with people. So what John did is he is the one that designed and printed thousands and thousands and thousands of flyers. And then he would have volunteers go to the airport, and they would stand by the gate of flights leaving for different states. And they go to the captain when he was ready to board. They say, we'll have somebody waiting at the gate for you. Would you just take this box of flyers? And that's how they got to California. That's how they got to Nevada. That's how they got all over the country.
Smart. That's so smart.
He did some great work.
Yeah. Yeah. It's unfortunate now. It took a son to die and really lit a fire under him. And life was not easy for John. I mean, it came to light now, if I'm not mistaken. Again, I caution. I mean, his wife was cheating on him, the best friend. He had a lot of side issues. On top of that, his son was gone. I can't imagine how he was able to go on. I'm talking about the intestinal fortitude.
It is remarkable, but people don't know the sleepless nights and the heartache that he experienced. And I don't think anyone, unless you, God forbid, you lose a child in circumstances like that, could ever even imagine it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was the tragedy of this whole investigation, because after I interviewed John, and I cleared him beyond any doubt, and this guy opened up as if he was, going to confession, because it didn't matter anything he did in life. It only mattered that if I could give me some information that might help, to find his son, he was willing to give everything. And then and one of the, going over the family tree and everything else, I found out that it was Jimmy Campbell, which was he was like a kid brother to him. The guy came from a troubled family, and John, befriended him, and the kid looked up to him. And as the kid grew up, they worked at the Diplomat Hotel together. John was in charge of the pool, and the kid was he cleaned up after and everything. And then I looked. And he told me, he said that he even for a period of time lived in the little efficiency behind the house, and for rent-free as long as he went to college. And if he didn't go to college, then he wouldn't be able to live there. And in return, he would, do the yard work and whatever. Well, when Rivet had Adam, and he was close to the family, that he was Adam's godfather.
Yeah.
Well, I looked at the list that Hoffman had presented to me. The first list was about 10 people that he interviewed, polygraphed. He wasn't included. And
interesting.
So I said to John,
"That's crazy to me."
That is very interesting that he wouldn't be included.
That shows that they didn't do an interview
Yeah.
to determine this. And I said to him, I said, "Well, where's Jimmy now?" And he says, "Well, he's probably searching for him. Everybody, they have a command post at the house." And he said, "Let me call the house." And he was there. And I said, "Well, have him come over now."
Yeah,
and
get him cleared.
And Jimmy got to the police station. I mean, I met John at 9 o'clock in the morning. Jimmy got over there at 9 o'clock at night. And I strike while the iron's hot. I interviewed him that night. Well, I knew something was bothering him, but I didn't know what. And the interview went on until he admitted that there was a time when John was doing a lot of traveling, was never home, and there was an intimacy between him and Rivet.
Wow!
And he was devastated, thinking that this had to come up, and but it had nothing to do with Adam going missing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It wasn't germane to the case.
About, maybe there was a strain in their marriage, but between John and Rivet at that time. But I mean, this woman is the mother of all mothers. I mean, she just was just a good mother, and John was a great father. And they had a loving relationship in the family.
Yeah.
It's just that she made some wrong decisions. And she had to live with that for the rest of her life.
No, Joe, you come just to back up a little bit. You go into the police department. They weren't very receptive to you being there, to the point to where, hi, how you doing? That kind of stuff going on. You have detectives.
Just him, not the police department, but just Hoffman.
Just him. And then, of course, at the police department, while this investigation is being conducted in earnest, they're using napkins. Now, at that point, you having the more experience in these investigations and having all the qualifications you have, were you a little surprised that they just didn't say, you know what, the guy's right, let's do some better police work? Were you kind of surprised at some of the fumbling and bumbling of the police department? Because it's firmly cited in a lot of the stuff I've read that there was a lot of police, the dropping of the ball going on.
Yeah, it was. I mean, if you want to find an excuse, the excuse was, a man with that personality and his attitude, he should never have been a detective. Number one. But having said that, there was a lack of supervision. Had he worked under my supervision, and I saw there was a lack of cooperation, number one, he never would have worked for me. But had he worked for me, I would have corrected. Any good supervisor would have corrected it. For whatever reason, there was no supervision, and after I completed my interview with Jimmy that night, and he told me what he told me, and I tested him, and I know for sure, positively for sure, he wasn't involved in any way, and he had a fail-safe alibi. I mean, he was.
Sure.
They were doing a filming of a commercial, and he was out on one of those. It's like a surfboard with a sail, I forgot what they call it.
Yeah.
But he was being paid in the backdrop of this commercial, going back and forth. So they had him on film for like 10, 12 hours that day.
Sure.
So there's no way, he would have been involved. But when I was leaving, and it was like 3:30 in the morning, and I thought I was the last one in there, and I see Hoffman, and he said, "What are you still doing here?" And I said, "Well, what are you doing here?" He said, "Well, I'm working over." And I said, I just completed another test. He said, you tested Walsh for whatever it was, 15, 18 hours? I said, no, I tested Jimmy Campbell.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I didn't put him on the list. Who authorized you to test somebody not on the list? And I wanted to say, the hell with you. But I just listened to him, and I said, I found out he was Adam's godfather, and he lived in the house up until, a few months ago. And I thought it was necessary to test him.
Yeah.
And then what I regret is telling him what he admitted to me about his relationship.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because had I not brought that up, he would never have known, and he wouldn't have focused all his attention on him.
Yeah.
And
did you tell him? I suppose.
And my report was so sensitive.
Yeah.
I demanded, and he agreed, but he lied, to put my report not in the case file, but in evidence. You know what I mean? So it wouldn't have it. No one would have access to it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
And
because it's
they
really
focused all the attention on Jimmy.
Yeah, because it's his affair, as horrible as it really isn't germane to the case.
Not at all.
So like I said, as horrible as it is, and no matter what your personal thoughts were, it doesn't get you any closer to finding Adam.
No.
That's more of a drama on the side. Well, after you clear everybody, and they all seem to be coming up great alibis, the polygraph tests all come clean. I did the head scratching start, because usually stats say that when a murder like this happens, it's usually a relative that's doing it.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right. The boyfriend, the relative, somebody that's close to the child, but not in this case.
Yeah, and we're going to get to that.
But, it's like any homicide, no matter which one, even the Adam Walsh case, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. And if one piece just doesn't fit, you don't file it down to make it fit, because the rest of the pieces won't fit. You got to take it apart and start over.
Yeah.
And once, that I got all the pieces together, everything made sense. I mean, there's no questions about anything that I have. I mean, I encourage people to ask a question. I'll try to answer it, but it's just, it all fits as to, Adam was never abducted from within the store. You know what I mean? There are people that think that, that he was abducted from within the store.
I mean,
he wasn't, because the young 16-year-old security guard eventually admits, because she was in fear of her job,
mm-hmm.
that when Adam was playing the video game with the young boy that the mother introduced him to, that was playing, and he was willing to play with Adam, and I interviewed him, 20 years later, there were two street kids that came in, and they bullied their way, saying they were going to play. Well, this kid wasn't a bully. I mean, he wasn't somebody you could bully, so there was an altercation.
Sure. Joe, there was a tussle. Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry.
In the notes I read, there was a tussle, of course, over the video game. And they kicked all of them out of the store, including little 6-year-old Adam. That's what I read.
The security guard told me that she thought that was his brother. So when he said his mother wasn't there, she never asked Adam. She just escorted him out the door.
Mm-hmm.
So the mother's inside the store looking for him, and Adam's standing outside.
Yeah.
And that's where Ottis Toole grabbed him.
And he's only 6.
With a kid that had no relation to him.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
And what I read in the book was that the other kid, the kid that she kicked Adam out with, didn't his mother come out right away and take him away? And didn't he want to wait for Adam? Something like that?
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. He said, and she said, his mother will come along. Let's go. And back then, nobody thought of you know what, my wife hit the key thing on that. She said, before Adam Walsh, a mother would hold a child's hand.
Yep.
And after Adam Walsh, she held her by the wrist.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Adam Walsh's abduction changed
everything.
Child safety and child laws as 9/11 changed, airport flights. You know what I mean? It just it changed society.
I'm about at what Adam's age would be today. I'm about there. I'm 43 years old, so I'm not very far from what his age would be. Had he survived, and we have to run a break, but when we come back, we're going to take that dark turn into what indeed did happen to Adam and who did it to Adam. When we come back right after this. After Hours AM, the Criminal Code. We'll be right back after a word from these sponsors.
Northern Tool and Equipment.
I got a rather serious problem over here.
All right, what are we looking at?
Cranky mother-in-law asleep on the couch in the man cave.
Dear God.
It gets worse.
That's impossible.
She's passed out on the remote.
I stand corrected.
But what do I do?
Okay, I want you to grab a torn big red hydraulic bottle jack.
Okay.
Now you wedge that bad boy in under your mother-in-law and crank her up skyward.
It's working. And got the remote.
Great. Now grab that torn big red 2-ton folding shop crane and put that woman on wheels.
And away we go.
There's no problem a little horsepower can't solve. Northern Tool and Equipment.
This is Jen McGowan, founder of Wayward Souls Promotions, a company dedicated to helping individuals, teams, radio shows, and others that are seeking exposure for their individual events, conventions, and shows. We offer a wide variety of advertising, such as web-based article, social media posts, podcast advertisement, and so on. Contact us at paranormalpromotion@gmail.com, visit us on Facebook at Wayward Souls Promotions, and visit our website at www.waywardsoulspromotions.com.
Welcome back to After Hours AM, the Criminal Code. And welcome back to After Hours AM, the Criminal Code, everybody. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis, right along with me,
Eric Olsen and
Dr. Clarissa Cole.
And we are really having a really interesting discussion and a kind of a, for a lot of us parents out there, a gut-wrenching discussion at the same time. Joe Matthews, and quite honestly, Joe, your credentials are stellar, and your work in homicide has just been impeccable. I mean, really, you are truly one of the best we've ever interviewed, to be completely honest with you. And you worked on the Adam Walsh case. Now, we were getting to the point where Adam was outside. How did the abduction happen? Best of your knowledge of what you guys uncovered, how did this all go down?
Ottis Toole, he was friends with Henry Lee Lucas. They were lovers and friends. And they were both molesting Ottis's niece at the time. And Ottis Toole was separated when they went on a road trip, the two of them. And Lucas and the girl were arrested, but Ottis thought they abandoned him. And he attempted suicide. Too bad he didn't die. But he went back to Jacksonville and he decided to replace his niece and find himself a little girl. And he drove down, and one of the reasons why he picked South Florida is he was a hustler, and he could do a gay trick for more money in South Florida than he could in Jacksonville. And that was his reasoning for picking South Florida. And he attempted, 2 days before he saw Adam, he attempted an abduction from a Kmart, which was only a mile from the Sears. And the girl screamed, and the mother ran over, and he fled, and she reported it to the police. Mm-hmm. The day Ottis Toole was in the Sears Mall, but he wasn't in Sears. He was just taking a walk through the mall. He actually mentioned a wig shop that he would look at. He was a transvestite too, and he looked at wigs, and it was called cadaver wigs. So when I did the research on that, cadaver wigs was only open for 2 years. The year that Adam went missing, and the following year, then it went out of business.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's hard for anybody to have known that, especially Ottis Toole, the name of the company. So when he was leaving, he sees a little boy, and this wasn't a premeditated abduction. He just sees a little boy standing there by himself. So he double parked the car, which stalled traffic, and in parking lot traffic, and he walks up to him, and he offers him a toy. He has toys, and Adam, compliant, walked with him. He opened up the door, he jumped in the car, and then soon after, Ottis's own words is the kids start crying. Now, this was actually witnessed by someone that actually saw the abduction and came forward, and the police discounted it. You know what I mean? And it was just unbelievable. I tracked him down in 1996 and again in 2008. And he gave, and what solved the case really was this man, because he gave me information on the vehicle that no one else knew about. And it was a certain kind of damage to the vehicle that when I looked for the crime scene photos, which means the FDLE, Florida Department of Law Enforcement, processed the vehicle like 3 years later when they found Ottis Toole on another homicide, and there was the exact damage that this guy described, and they went. Well, Ottis Toole, in his own words, says that Adam wouldn't stop crying, and he punched him in the stomach, and then he kept crying again, and he strangled him until he knocked him out. Well, I would like to think, and I believe, that Adam died of asphyxiation, and then he decided to pull over, and we found the location and everything else. It was about 2 miles south of where they found Adam's head, and he beheaded him, and then he took the head and put it in the front seat with himself, and he put the body in the trunk. And then when he realized, he actually, did terrible things to the head, and then he decided he didn't want to be caught with, a body part in the car, so he pulled over, and there was one of these, what do you call it? It's like a little pond.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But for drainage and stuff like that. But it was manicured, and there was a dock, and he threw the head in there.
Wow. Did he ever say why he beheaded Adam?
Ottis Toole, different serial murderers, they all, not all, but they're like, this is Joe's analysis of it. They're like, let's say, a pedophile. And a lot of pedophiles, most of them, they have a certain age, a certain sex that they're attracted to. Well, serial murderers, like Ted Bundy, he liked a certain hairstyle and a certain color hair and a certain age of his female victims. Well, Ottis Toole was a serial murderer, but he was an opportunist. I mean, it didn't matter if you're young or old. It didn't matter if you're male or female. When he got the urge, or he thought it would be a kick, he would just, kill him, and then he'd experiment. They did postmortem sex, and they did, he actually was cannibalistic, and he tried, he admitted this. I mean, he would eat, the flesh, and he would eat the body parts, and they, when they asked him about eating, and he said that they said, "You mean I ate it raw?" He said, "Of course not. Who in the hell would ever eat it raw? You gotta cook it. You know what I mean?" And
wow.
And that's what he did. So when he took the body, he dumped the head in the pond, and he took the body home. And it was after he was depressed because the only thing that was close to him, he had one sister that was close to him, and his mother. And his mother had died a few months before. And he, as a tribute to his mother, he was a pyromaniac. I mean, he used to get excited, setting fires. and he set the house on fire, but only the porch, a good portion of the house, but the porch portion of the house burnt. Mm-hmm. And so he slept in the car with Adam's body in the trunk of the car. And but when he got there to the house, he had this big tub that he used to burn the insulation off a wire so he could sell the copper. And he put the body in there, and he burnt the body, and he even tasted it to see if it, if you like to eat it. And then he put the smoldering body in the trunk, and while he's trying to sleep, there was a lot of smoke and everything, so he was afraid the car would catch on fire.
Sure.
So he turned on the water with the water hose, and he put it out. Well, I checked all the records and everything else, and even though the house was abandoned and everything else, the water was still on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it all matched. Everything matched, and then he dumped it in the county dump.
And did they ever recover Adam's body? I'm not aware that I saw anything where they recovered.
No. This came out years later. Nobody. It was unrecoverable. It was dumped in the dump, and once it goes in the dump, the odds of finding it, even if it's the next day, are slim to none. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and then of course there was physical evidence linking Adam's head to being in the car. Am I correct?
Yeah. That's that. I call it the hidden Mickey. If you ever go to Disney World or in California, Disneyland, there's Mickey Mouse ears and heads all over. You know what I mean? And people have contests how many they could find. And you could be on the castle and look down, you see it in a flower bed, or you could see it a little one in the mirror.
Yeah.
Not for Dr. Cole, but for the gentleman. It's like the old Playboy magazine. It had the little bun on the front. You know what I mean? On the front page.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
I have no idea.
Yes. Eric over there is absolutely innocent.
Everyone. Yeah. Well, there's a hidden Mickey in every death investigation, and that's the wow factor. That's the one that says, "Oh my God, that's it." And when I was putting together this manuscript, to prove that he did it, one of the most compelling things was the damage to the vehicle. So I'm looking for the crime scene photos that FDLE would have taken when they processed the car, and I couldn't find them. And I worked on the case for 2 years and 8 months.
Yeah.
And when I first was assigned the case, they gave it to a sergeant, and they said, I was introduced to them over the phone, and they said that anything that I wanted, make sure they provided it. And I never needed anything because I had the whole case file. I had my own investigation. I did my own interviews, but I couldn't find the crime scene photos. So I called them, and I said, "This is Joe Matthews." "Yeah, I know who you are." And I said, "Oh my God, what is this, another Hoffman?" And I said to him, I can't find the FDLE crime scene photos when they processed his vehicle, the Cadillac. And he said, "Well, obviously we don't have them." I said, "Okay, I could agree with that." I said, since FDLE would have taken probably about 100 photos, could you contact FDLE and give me a copy of the photos? "Anything else?" I said, "Nope, that's it." And he said, "Okay, goodbye." And I waited 2 weeks, called him up. His name was Lionel. I said, "Hey, Lyle," I said, "It's Joe Matthews." "Yeah." I said, "How'd you make out?" He said, "With what?" I said, "FDLE's crime scene photos." "Oh, they can't find them." And I said, "They can't find them?" I said, if we're looking for a little box in a warehouse full of big boxes, maybe you're not going to find it.
Yeah.
But we're looking for crime scene photos. I said, "Would you do me a favor, call them back, see if they found them?" "Yeah, okay, sure." And he hangs up. A week later, I call him back, and he said, "No, they don't have them." I said, "Okay, I appreciate it." As soon as I hang up, I call up FDLE. I call the crime lab. I talk to the supervisor in charge, and he said, "Hey," I said, I'm calling on behalf of Sergeant Bean, and I want to know if you guys found the Adam Walsh crime scene photos on Ottis Toole's car." He said, "Who? What? I don't know what you're talking about." He said, "Hold on." Then he asked everybody there, and nobody knows. Nobody's asked for these things.
Yeah.
Shit, 20 years.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And I said, I'm looking for, this is the case number, da-da-da. And he said, all right. He said, today's Friday. I'll have somebody call you Monday. I said, that'd be great. Well, the young lady, an FDLE agent, calls me Tuesday, apologizes for not calling me Monday. And she said, we have 98 photos. You know, what do you want to send? Now, everything in life, whether it's a relationship or whether it's police work, and it's forgotten, and it's so important, is communication. You got to talk to people. And the more you talk, the more information you get. I've solved more cases from talking than I ever did with forensics.
Sure.
And we start talking, and she said to me, you know what's really disturbing? I said, what's that? She said, this case, this is the last thing I was doing for my presentation. She said, it's almost 28 years old, and we processed the vehicle 25 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, our protocol is we develop the film into negatives. We file the negatives, and only upon request do we develop the negatives.
Yeah.
She said, this is the very first request we've ever had for the crime scene photos.
Interesting.
And as upset as
28 years later?
Yeah, no kidding.
Nobody requested them. With all the different agencies working this case, nobody thought of requesting it. And I probably wouldn't have thought it unless I was looking for a specific picture to look at the damage.
Sure.
So, and then the irony of it, had Sergeant Bean not lied, and he admitted to the chief that he didn't call him and he lied, but had he not lied, he would have got the photos and reviewed them before sending it to me, and he would have, saw what I found.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the bottom line is, I get the photos, and I'm looking for that hidden Mickey, and I thought the hidden Mickey would be the damage to the vehicle.
Yeah.
And I saw the vehicle. I said, oh, my God, it's exactly the same. Even the color from the transfer of paint on the dent is exactly what the guy described. So I thought that was it. Then I'm looking, and we're all familiar with luminol, right?
Yep.
It lights up blood when you spray on it.
Yeah. Makes blood into neon signs.
Oh. Yeah. Like a blue lacquer paint. And I'm looking, and I say, oh, my God, maybe this is the hidden Mickey. Because Ottis said when he beheaded Adam, he was so covered in blood, he had to throw away his shoes and change his pants. Well, I got 2 footprints on the driver's side of the car, on the floor mat or with the carpet. It was black carpeting. And I said, oh, my God, this is it. Then they found a machete in his car, and they processed that. And on the sheath of the machete, when they opened it up, and on the handle, a wooden handle of the machete that he used for work, it looked like somebody spray painted it with blue.
Oh.
And I said, oh, my God. It was like a sponge. you know?
Wow.
And then I'm looking and looking, and I see the final picture, and I said, oh, my God. And I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And it was a blood transfer from Adam's face that when it was thrown in the back floorboard of the car, it transferred onto the carpeting, and you have Adam's image of his face. And the closest thing I could think of is like the Shroud of Turin, you know what I mean, where you actually see the outline of the face and the mouth open and the nose and the eyes. I mean, it's just unbelievable. It's right there. It's in the book. It's right there, the picture.
Yeah.
I said, oh, my God.
Joe, what was that like
to see Mickey?
What was that like to see that, though? I mean, you're a human being and a father. And
it's hard to look at, isn't it, Joel?
It is horribly hard to look at. And then you have this
because
monster.
It's his face. It is his face.
Yeah, it's his face.
I mean, no doubt.
And then you have this monster.
John refused to look at it, but Reve wanted to know every detail because she'd been protected, and that's what she was upset about. Don't protect me. I'm his mother. I want to know everything. Yeah. And when she looked at it, she said, "Oh my God, that is his face." You know what I mean? And it just
man,
it was just
so
a wow
sad.
factor,
That is so sad and so hard to look at. What happens to Otis Toole? What happens to him? Is he brought to full justice?
Ottis Toole was arrested on 7 different homicides, and he got life in prison on the different homicides. And in 1996, I was requested that they had a new 95 correction. There was a new chief of police in Hollywood that was in charge of homicide for Miami, and he knew me. And he called me, and he said, you were familiar with the case? He said, I want you to work this as a cold case. I worked it for 1 year, but I never had access to the entire case file. And then I wanted to interview Ottis Toole. And I knew before you do an interview, you do all your homework. So I knew that he didn't want to talk to police and everything else. And at the time, I was teaching at Nova Southeastern University at the Center of Forensic Psychology. And I asked Nova's permission, and I wrote with their stationery a letter to Ottis Toole. And they said he was totally illiterate. He could read, he could write. Mm-hmm. And I told him, I said, I'm doing a book on serial murderers, and I have 10 different, serial murderers I'm going to interview. And I said, these are the people I'm going to interview, and you're one of them. Would you like to have to be interviewed? Yeah. And I said, it will be in the library, so it wouldn't have to, be the surroundings of the prison. And I'll bring in Kentucky Fried Chicken, which he loved. Mm-hmm. And
you got him with the chicken.
And he agreed,
yes, you are wily.
He agreed to it. 2 days before I'm ready to leave, I said, my God, the guy I'm going up there with, he hadn't called me. This first time he hadn't called me 2-3 times a day in over 2 years. And then I called him. I said, hey, are we flying? Are we driving? Bring enough clothes because we got to be up there a week. I'm going to take my time and talk to him until I get everything.
Yeah.
And he said, Joe, nobody called you? And I said, oh, call me about what? The Hollywood chief that asked me to do it as a cold case investigation, knowing how close we were now, decided that they would do the interview themselves.
Oh.
And they didn't need my assistance anymore. And the bottom line, they sent a detective up there. The first thing he did is identify himself as a Hollywood cop, and Ottis Toole told him to screw off, and that was the extent of it, and never was interviewed.
Oh.
And they never got to charge Ottis. I mean, what people don't realize, they never got to charge Ottis Toole because he died like at the same time that you were kind of closing the case and convincing people once and for all that Ottis Toole did.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Unreal.
And then I was so compelled, obligated on this case, I even told the detectives, I said, look, the guy's dying of a liver disease and hepatitis and everything else. And I said, you got to hold his hand and get a dying declaration.
Yeah.
And then Hollywood didn't even know he died.
Didn't he say he did it? He gave a confession at some point, and then he recanted?
Well, throughout the investigation, people say, that he recanted every time. He recanted, he gave the confession 21 times, and he recanted 3 times. But the 3 times, one was, I know I did it, but my attorney said I didn't do it. I mean, you know what I mean?
Man.
That's not recanting.
Yeah.
And another time was like, I didn't kill that little boy. I never killed anybody. Well, we know he was convicted 7 times out of God knows how many.
Well,
and, so he did give a dying declaration to the chief of the medical office at the prison, you know what I mean, saying he killed that little boy and that's the only one he saw about doing. And then I interviewed his sister, and she told me she was the only one close to him. And I have letters that he wrote her, and she wrote him, and she'd bring him cigarettes. And he told her that she said, "Is it true that you killed that little boy?" He said, "Yeah, I didn't. He's the only. I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry." And she said, "That's the last time I talked to him. I refused to ever see him again. I ever write him a letter or do anything with him."
What was John Walsh's and the family's reaction to? Really, it almost sounds like he talked about it very cavalier a lot of times. This guy and what he'd done.
John, when I presented everything to him and his family, his wife, it was like a sigh of relief knowing that, thank God, this terrible thing is coming to an end. Not an end that Reve described it perfectly. She said, losing a child, the only thing I could relate it to is like if you lost an arm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Throughout the whole day, you don't have only but one arm. And when you go to sleep, you can't even turn over because you don't have that arm. Yeah. And when you wake up, the first thing you realize you don't have that arm. And that's how it is when you lose a loved one. It's on your mind 24/7.
Yeah.
First thing you think about, And then the only relief you have is some days, it's not the first thing you think about, you know?
Oh, yeah, I couldn't imagine. I couldn't. I'm a father as well, and excuse me, it chokes me up a little bit to hear that because I couldn't imagine that. I really couldn't. And then, of course, to have to sit through the waiting and the wondering and who did it and how it happened, and then, of course, this scumbag turns up and he decides that he's going to do this to your child. I don't know if I could keep my sanity with all that. So they're stronger than I think I would have been, to be honest with you.
Well, you know, those are the things that we'll never know what they went through.
Yeah.
And I know John and I have talked many a night where, you know, I mean, it would make you cry if you heard the conflicts in his mind and the things
Sure.
I mean, that went through his mind and how he could just end it all by you know, skydiving. I mean, like what do you call it? Those kites, you know what I mean? And then just
hang gliding.
just
yep.
Hang glide and just let it go down into the ocean. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's really remarkable on what he's accomplished and how he was so focused on.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't a vigilante to say, I'm going to go and try to get him, you know, somebody to kill him. It was how could we prevent this from happening, and how many other children's lives he saved. It's remarkable.
Sure. I mean, you know, he went on to really bring a lot of people to justice. I mean, thousands he's brought to justice since.
And he recovered a lot of children. It's
Yeah.
remarkable.
Yeah, it really is remarkable. But
And Reve, she's a sweetheart. I'm telling you, she's like the one that is behind the screen. You know what I mean? But she is a powerful woman. She's just a strong-willed woman that gets things done.
yeah, it's tragic. It had to happen. I mean, oh my God, you know, just look at these photos and courtesy of your book, of course. Why don't you tell the audience where they can get your book and a little bit more about yourself, how to contact you, all that kind of good stuff?
Well, it's Joe at Joe Matthews and Associates. That's my my email address, and you have to spell everything out. And if you just go to Google and look up Detective Joe Matthews, it gives you all the information on the book and everything else. You could get it anywhere, and it's in paperback now. And it was a New York Times bestseller.
Yeah, it's a great book. And really, it's really well written, and the way that you conducted the investigation was really remarkable, Joe. And then having the justice, I mean, so close too to being able to sit with him and get that confession. I in a lot of ways, listening to what you're telling me, you were cheated of that. I mean, you deserved that to get that first-hand confession.
Yeah, well, you know, it is what it is. And you know what? There's so many other tragedies out there. It's remarkable how many heartaches that there are, the calls that I get, you know what I mean?
Oh, sure.
And, you know, and I tell the parents, you know, they'll say, well, I know she didn't commit suicide. I know this, I know that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know, before I review a case, I say to them, every investigation, there's flaws in the investigation. You know, just there's always a flaw. Now, if the flaw is minimal and it doesn't affect the outcome of the investigation, then there's no need, you know, for me to get involved. But if the flaw affects the outcome of the investigation, therefore a mistake was made, you know, then they deserve the right to know what happened to their loved one.
Yeah. I agree. And Joe, thanks so much for coming on the show. Joe Matthews, everybody, top-notch investigator, great author as well. Pick up the books, read what he has to say. There's a lot here we didn't cover in this interview that's in the book. Pick that up, and of course, you know, we keep everyone in our prayers that are right now as we speak still missing loved ones. And hopefully some justice can happen or some resolution can happen to those people as well. But it's people like Joe working behind the scenes that bring us that resolution. So, Joe, thanks a ton for coming on the show. And I'm going to say to everybody, this is After Hours AM Criminal Code. And this is kind of a somber one, guys. This is a tough one to sit through. But there is a message here that, you know, tragedy happens, but B, there is justice for that tragedy as well. Sometimes it doesn't happen as quickly as we'd like it to, but a lot of times it does, again, because through the work of people like Joe. But take care of each other, love each other, and look out for each other.